Hi, Acadiana. Meteorologist Dave Baker here on a Wednesday. We have a new tropical storm. We've had several tropical waves over the last several weeks that attempted to become Tropical Storm Gabrielle, but today we officially do have a new tropical storm. It's out in the middle part of the Atlantic. Unfortunately, it is not going to be a threat to the Gulf waters and probably not going to be a threat to the Caribbean islands nor the Bahamas and really the east coast of the U.S. I think the only area that really needs to kind of keep an eye on this is the tiny island of Bermuda out in the central part of the Atlantic. But the latest coordinates there are on the left-hand side of your screen. And because it's so far out in the Atlantic, there are no tropical storm watches or warnings. So the updates come down every 6 hours. So the next update won't be until 4 o'clock later this afternoon. We're going to talk a little bit more about Gabrielle and its future. Plus, we've got a couple of other tropical waves that are out there. And we're also going to look even deeper into the future where there are some trends that are showing the end of September and even the first couple of weeks of October might be a little busier across the Atlantic basin than what it has been here over the last several weeks. But first, let's knock out some biz here. 88 under partly cloudy skies. Feels like 95, though. That humidity has returned as we've got more of a southerly flow. So that onshore flow is going to boost the humidity levels, and unfortunately that means our comfort levels are going to be going down during the afternoon. And so far we've got just a couple of spotty showers out here. It looks like a little bit of action over to around the Baton Rouge area, maybe a couple of spotty showers there. Got a couple of little showers out here in the offshore waters too, but at this point not a lot going on, at least early this afternoon. But over the course of the day, with the daytime heating kicking in, there is enough low-level moisture in place that we could see some scattered showers and thunderstorms developing later this afternoon. And as we look at the bigger picture, really everything's pretty quiet along the northern Gulf Coast. As we look at some of our cameras this time around, dry conditions on our area roadways here in the immediate Acadiana area, and we do have a mix of sun and clouds with those warmer temperatures. And as the day goes on, you're going to see a little bit more cloud cover starting to develop here, and with some instability, there could be a couple of isolated showers and thunderstorms. Again, there's still more of a ridge of high pressure that's in the upper levels that's kind of in control, and you got more of a trough here and kind of a surface feature that's right off the east coast of the U.S., but you can kind of see how that upper trough does kind of dig here down to the south, and then it kind of cruises its way off toward the northeast, and that's impacting some thunderstorm activity down here over Florida. But again, that's part of an upper level system and really not going to be an issue when it comes to any tropical weather. But some gorgeous conditions there from Florida to Alabama to Dauphin Island, Alabama, and then westward over to around Cocodrie, looking good with clear skies, and then just a few clouds starting to pop up there over southeastern Texas, very close to Galveston Bay. So if you're going to do some boating, again, pretty nice day out there. Winds are shifting more toward the south, and there could be a few scattered storms out in the offshore water. So remember, winds and seas are higher around those. But if you're going to be in the area, lakes and bays, you're probably going to be pretty good with those light southerly breezes, and the seas really only running about 1 to 2 feet. But you can see that there's a little bit of moisture that's right about in there, and it's starting to show up there on the satellite imagery as we start to get a little bit more cloud cover. And there is enough instability to get some spotty showers and thunderstorms going later this afternoon. The bulk of the action, though, is going to be staying here over the eastern waters. Again, we've got more of an upper trough that kind of digs down here and then kind of swoops in like that. And that's why you're seeing a lot of wind shear, and you're seeing most of the cloud tops kind of blowing off to the northeast there over the southeastern part of the Gulf. But at this point, we don't really expect any issues out there. What we're seeing here across the Yucatan is kind of part of the northern edge of a tropical wave. But there's really nothing tropical in nature close to home, which is good news. So all we've got out there is Tropical Storm Gabrielle, and we have another tropical wave that's getting close to the Cape Verde Islands. Not expected to develop in the next couple of days, but it might have a better chance as it moves into a more favorable area here later this week and into the early part of the weekend. So let's analyze some of our satellite imagery. A fairly quiet day here along the Central American coastline. Now, there is a bit of a tropical wave that's right about in here. And that is going to continue to move off toward the west. It's interacting with some of that upper level energy, and that's why you've got these bigger thunderstorms here just to the east of the Yucatan Peninsula. And then you got a flare up of some thunderstorms here north of Panama. But again, nothing is showing any signs of organization. If it were, we'd be a little bit more concerned, especially that western Caribbean and southern part of the Gulf water. So there's that tropical wave right there. Got another tropical wave right about there, and looks like another one. Actually, looks like that third one is probably crossing the islands as we speak. And then farther out in the Atlantic, of course, we have Gabrielle, which is right in here. And there's that next tropical wave that's off the African coast. And you know what? We've got another area of low pressure that's going to start to slide off of the African coast. So that would be the next thing. And most of the models are showing maybe some minor development of the wave that's off the African coast and the next wave that's currently over Africa. The other two tropical waves, Western Caribbean and Eastern Caribbean, really not looking like we're going to see anything. So we're going to focus all of our attention today pretty much on Gabrielle. And one of the things you're going to see here on this particular satellite imagery is kind of a jump there in that last frame. So earlier, I really think the National Hurricane Center thought that maybe the center of circulation was farther to the south and then a new circulation kind of developing. And that does happen from time to time with a developing tropical depression, tropical storm. Sometimes there are multiple vortices that would be in and around the area of the convection, and one eventually takes over. And it looks like it's this northern piece up here that is now starting to take over as where the center of this tropical storm would be. And there was a pretty good jump in latitude, too, from this 4 o'clock forecast advisory that we got when tropical depression number 7 first formed. It was in the 13-something range on latitude, and then the very next update we got, it was at 17.5. So that's probably an indication that we had the center of circulation kind of reform in a different area. Now, that is going to throw off the models a little bit, at least initially, but not long range down the road. National Hurricane Center is forecasting this to become a hurricane perhaps sometime this weekend. And the good news is it looks like it's going to pass well to the north of the Caribbean islands and should stay away from the East Coast as well. But Bermuda is right in there. The little spot, probably about right in there, is where your spot is. And so that's where the tropical storm or hurricane could be coming. So right now, the only threat is going to be to Bermuda. Now, a lot of things can change, and especially if, a lot of the models are kind of focusing on what the initial tropical depression's position was, and with this reformation of the center of circulation, the models are going to be off for just a little while. Probably by tomorrow, things will be in better shape. But this is what we're looking at. And as far as the forecast track, there is, let me move this microphone here for just a second, but there is a lot of agreement here, at least initially. That's why when you got the lines that are really on top of each other, there's a high confidence that that's what your forecast is going to be. But if you look at the individual numbers there, that's going out to about 72 hours. So after 3 days, you get a little bit of a turn, you get a little bit of a widening of that. So that's why your cone is going to look like that. But then beyond that, as you go even farther out, you can see most of the models make a pretty hard right turn back out into the Atlantic Ocean. So that would be the best case scenario. And the ensemble suite of the Euro model showing the final solution, the one solution, which is the black line they have in there. And at least kind of like what we were seeing in the National Hurricane Center's various hurricane models, pretty confident that it's going to stay within this range here over the next couple of days, and then they kind of diverge as they normally would be as you go out beyond day 3, 4, and 5. You always have a lot more uncertainty the farther out in your forecast will be. Ensemble suite from the GFS, though, actually runs out a little bit farther. The Euro is based on the 6Z model, so it doesn't go quite as far out in time as the GFS model. The 0Z and the 12Z Euro goes out, I think, 15 days, but the other ones, 06 and the 18Z, only go out, I believe, 10 days. So you don't get as much from the Euro on these every other model runs. But the GFS runs 16 days out on every single model run. And you can see here is pretty, just kind of like the Euro, pretty good turn, pushing it back off toward the northeast. So that would be a best case scenario, obviously, for the east coast of the U.S. and much of the Caribbean islands here. But of course, you got Bermuda there in the middle that might be threatened by this tropical system. And fortunately, I will say that the intensity models have kind of backed off a little bit from this morning. We had a few that were going category 2, category 3. You got that one outlier that wants to make it a major hurricane, but the intensity models have really kind of squeezed down more into the tropical storm status. So that's that green area right there, and that's going all the way out to 7 days. And you can see the majority of them do keep it a tropical storm. Now, the official forecast, you see that OFCL, does go to a hurricane, and that's what the National Hurricane Center is forecasting at this point. And that's why we, could see a Category 1 hurricane a little bit farther down the road. So let's go ahead and look at the models. We're not just going to focus on Gabrielle, but I also want to kind of look and see what's going to happen here with some of the other tropical waves that are going to be coming off the African coast, because you got another wave there, and you got another piece of energy that looks like it wants to pull off there. And then, of course, you've got Gabrielle right there in the middle. So as we kind of push this forward here on the Euro model, and this is the one from 0Z, so we can go out a lot farther here, and you can see that at least Gabrielle does hold on as it moves into the western part of the Atlantic. Unfortunately, it still looks like it's going to try to put Bermuda in the crosshairs, but as we get out here to Monday of next week, so we're going out about 5 days from now, if you look out in the Atlantic, both of those other tropical waves are just non-existent. So the Euro is forecasting some strengthening when it comes to Gabrielle, but it really doesn't seem to be too excited about anything that's out there in the Atlantic Ocean. So I believe we've gotten out here getting close to that 240 hours. I don't like to go out much more than 10 days, but even as we get into that 240, even though there's no tropical waves or anything forecast by the Euro, I do want to get you to pay attention to this steady stream of very moist air. So if we do get tropical waves that'll come off, it's going to be a much friendlier environment for development compared to what we've seen over the past several weeks. And a lot of that, if you remember the last tropical wave, I think it was 91L, eventually just fizzled out, even though it was forecast to become another named storm, and it didn't happen. So the GFS this is the newer model. This is the 12Z, so this is brand new. I'm seeing this for the first time, the same with you. And you see that Gabrielle pretty much on the same track as what the Euro is showing, and then it looks like a bit of a stall, and then kind of a hard right turn after that. So we are going out, we are way out here. We're actually a week from Saturday. So let me go ahead and back it up just a little bit and see if we can get into that 240 range there. Problem is those numbers are so small on there, it's hard for me to see. Okay, there's 192, and then there is 240 right there. Also, want to bring to your attention, like the Euro, you see a lot more moisture in the atmosphere across the center part of the Atlantic, and also a little bit more moisture out here over the western part of the Caribbean too. And that's where I want to get to later on when we talk about the next couple of weeks, where we're showing at least some signs of some increased activity. Let's bounce around here and look at the Canadian model real quick. And again, that one pretty much robust on keeping Gabrielle as a tropical storm, maybe a hurricane as we get into the weekend. It's a little more optimistic on this other tropical wave back here toward the west as we get out into that 10-day period. Perhaps that'll be meandering its way across the Atlantic. But once again, I want to point out here, see that extra moisture there kind of coming off the African coast and also over here in the western part of the Caribbean. That, again, is a much friendlier environment for tropical systems wanting to develop. We'll finish off here, and unfortunately I can't use the moisture values on the icon, but the icon's pretty close again to what the Euro is calling, maybe a little bit farther to the west, but that one actually passes farther to the east of the island of Bermuda, which would be good news. So this is kind of shifted from yesterday a little farther to the east, and then going out 7 days, it does keep that other tropical wave out there, but you can see it doesn't look like it wants to last very long. So going out 7 days, the icon is only only focusing on Gabrielle. Water temperatures are quite warm, and they're going to be staying that way, as well as the heat potential, especially in the Western Caribbean and the areas around Florida and the southeastern part of the Gulf. The new tropical hazards outlook for weeks 2 and week 3 came down yesterday, and you still see a little bit of a hot spot in the southern Gulf, and for week 3, the Western Caribbean as well as the southern Gulf. And then you're still seeing those hot spots over the Atlantic Ocean, again, due to some of that increased moisture. So perhaps we could have some more tropical waves that'll be in more friendly territory. And then down here, we might be talking about the Central American gyre, which usually starts to rear its ugly head once again toward the latter part of November. So I wanted to go through the Euro. And again, we're just going to go through the next few weeks. And this is a very general forecast. So what this is looking at is the potential for any tropical system to develop or pass through any of these areas. So when you got these darker blues like this, most likely that's going to be what is based on Tropical Storm Gabrielle. But again, this is going pretty far out from where, this is week 2. So this is going from this coming Monday to the following Monday. So you're pretty far out there. And then as you advance it a little bit more, so this is from September 22nd to September 29th. So basically the last week of the month, it is showing a little bit more activity maybe here over parts of the Gulf. Let's advance it another week. So now we're looking from the 29th of September to the 6th of October. Look at that. Again, it's got a little bit more of a hot zone there over the Bay of Campeche, and you also got a little bit of a hot zone here on the Pacific side, which might be an indication of the Central American gyre. We'll forward it again for the first, from the 6th through the 13th of October, and you still see the southern part of the Gulf is a little bit on the hot side there, and it stays that way all the way through the following week, which is October 13th through October the 20th. So over the next month, we might see a little bit more action out here in the Atlantic. Hopefully those will all turn away like that, but we can't ignore this particular area because that is closer to home, and that's where a lot of our tropical storms and hurricanes do come from. They usually come from the Western Caribbean, the Bay of Campeche, or areas around the Caribbean. So don't let your guard down just yet because hurricane season is nowhere near over, and you can see that we still have a ton of activity. Let's just draw a straight line up here from November the 1st. And you can see we still have a lot of activity to go compared to the first couple of months. June, July, and the first part of August is pretty quiet. But you can see here from where we are right now, we're about right there. And through November 1st, all of that is pretty much above what we have for August 1st and any time before. In September, of course, we have development there in the Gulf, the Western Caribbean, and a large part of the Atlantic Ocean. And then by the time we get into October, we start focusing a little bit more on this area for development, and sometimes you get a little development here off the East Coast as well. So again, hurricane season is nowhere near done. Make sure you have supplies you need, and let's just keep hoping that the hurricane season stays nice and quiet and we don't have to use any of our emergency supplies for the 2025 season. Well, I hope you enjoy Let's Talk Tropics. If you do, please give this a like, subscribe to the channel, and also turn on those notifications. You can hear my forecast daily on Big 102.1, Planet Radio 106.7, and Freedom 95.1. And on select days, you can catch me over at WBRZ in Baton Rouge. I will be there on Sunday and Monday coming up. Some of you do catch BRZ on your TV. If you don't, I have a link to the live stream if you want to catch our shows there every weekday. We've got news pretty much all day long. And also, please follow my social media pages on Facebook and X for any updates on Tropical Storm Gabrielle. And, of course, a big thanks to everyone who's already subscribed to Acadiana Weather Today right here on YouTube. I'm Meteorologist Dave Baker. Hopefully you're lucky and get a little shower later this afternoon to water your garden. Other than that, I hope to see you tomorrow morning for Acadiana Weather Today. Have a great day.